We'll see you at 6:30.
Good night.
You've just watched Northwest News Channel 8, where the news comes first. Voted Oregon's best newscast by the Associated Press.
The last respite for the judge and jury as the Simpson case enters its final phase. Deliberations now just hours away. Lawmakers up late and the cutting continues. The debate over what's about to happen to Medicare. And could a warning system like this have prevented this crime? The victim's right to know when their attackers are set free.
From NBC News, this is NBC Nightly News. Reported from Washington by Brian Williams.
Good evening. The time can now be counted in hours before members of the jury in the O.J. Simpson double murder trial sit down to decide his fate. For all sides in this most widely watched of American trials, this weekend is the last respite before the jury begins its monumental task. Some are resting, others second-guessing, while the city gears up. We are joined this evening by NBC's Keith Morrison in Los Angeles. Keith?
Brian, now that the case has gone to the jury, there is some relief that it's finally over, but also a nagging worry that the trial may have reopened an ugly wound in race relations.
Today in San Francisco, prosecutor Christopher Darden ran the media gauntlet at a state bar convention. Nothing to say, but no way to escape his own fame. Judge Ito arrived last night. He had nothing to say either, and at his hotel today avoided unwanted badgering with the help of a security guard.
So no media? No media at all.
Yesterday, in his parting words, Ito tried to block public attention from the jurors' minds, too.
During the course of their arguments, counsels for both sides argued that, quote, the world is watching, unquote. You are reminded that you must not be influenced by mere sentiment, conjecture, sympathy, passion, prejudice, public opinion, or public feeling.
It has been a public trial, a TV spectacular seen all over the world, and the race factor was pushed to the forefront in defense attorney Johnny Cochran's closing argument.
If you don't speak out, if you don't stand up, if you don't do what's right, this kind of conduct will continue on forever.
They want you to believe that if you acquit him, that will be the courageous thing to do. I think the courageous thing to do in this case would be to look at all the evidence.
African-American leaders gathering today for a conference on affirmative action found themselves wondering instead about race questions raised in the trial.
We tend to shrug that off, but for those of us who have these experiences in this community with the Mark Furmans, it's a very serious problem.
Black people have been framed from the very beginning, and we know that. They've been lynched. They used to not even question it. The first black man they ran into, he's the one.
As Los Angeles waits, police have announced they will launch a so-called modified tactical alert to begin just before the verdict is read. So far, the only fireworks have been decidedly surreal. The mad circus of bizarre behavior played out for the benefit of journalists camped around the courthouse. But today, that courthouse is empty, undergoing minor repairs and awaiting the jury's first deliberations on Monday morning. In the meantime, life is changing for both the jury and the defendant. For the jury, because family visits and phone calls will now be monitored and conjugal visits stopped. And at the men's central jail, O.J. Simpson's life is narrowing down to a 9-by-6-foot cell. His jailers saying today they're trying to reduce the perks he has had. Everyone waits now.
There is some serious concern that the legacy of this trial may be that racial tensions in Los Angeles have been exacerbated.
Today, Newsweek magazine published the results of a poll which shows the disagreement between blacks and whites over the Simpson case is wider than ever. More blacks persuaded by the arguments of Simpson's defenders. More whites than ever believing the prosecutors. Brian?
NBC's Keith Morrison in Los Angeles tonight. We thank you. And a reminder to stay with NBC all during this coming week for continuing coverage and for first word of a verdict if there is one in the Simpson trial. When NBC Nightly News continues from Washington, cuts in the dark, the overnight action in the Capitol, and what's going to happen to Medicare. Then later, mornings on horseback and evenings and Saturdays too, making it look easy against the odds.
Amigos, estamos perdidos.
Não esquenta. Eu peço o mapa pelo correio eletrônico. Aqui? Eu estou rodando o S2 Warp Connect da IBM. Ele me dá acesso remoto ao servidor da minha rede, ao meu workgroup, até a internet.
Onde é que você arranjou isso?
Eu liguei para 800 call IBM.
LensCrafters and the optometrists next door work very well together. I test for glaucoma and cataracts with every patient. And with LensCrafters' 1-hour service, we can almost immediately see the results of our work.
LensCrafters, helping people see better, 1 hour at a time.
When I was young, Mom was always making sure I ate right. It wasn't always easy. Well, now we're listening to our doctors and taking better care of our health with Ensure.
Ensure is recommended #1 by doctors as a source of complete balanced nutrition.
More than a vitamin supplement, Ensure has all the nutrients adults need to help stay healthy, active, be energetic.
Drink Ensure as a meal.
Or in between, Ensure. To your health, Mom. To our health.
Ensure. Doctors recommend it #1.
Hey, man.
Hey. I'm making some grilled cheese sandwiches. You want one?
Sure. Dear Alfred.
Alfred?
Here are a couple things to make living on your own a little easier. Love, Mom.
Cool. Yikes.
Hey, check this out.
Nothing turns a sandwich into a satisfying meal like rich, wholesome Campbell's tomato soup. So you know your family's eating right, even when you can't be there to cook for them.
There's nothing like a home-cooked meal.
You said it, Alfred.
We've learned tonight from the family of Vice President Al Gore that a daughter of the Gore family was cited by police last night for illegal possession of alcohol. The incident reportedly happened in suburban Maryland outside Washington, D.C. The daughter's name has not been released, nor have any details. The family says it is handling it so far as a family matter. And the White House tonight announced late today President Clinton signed emergency legislation that will keep the government from shutting down while Congress works out a new federal budget. This spending bill keeps the government running only until November 13th. Also here in Washington, there was a rare late night for some in Congress in the effort to make a deal and avoid an impasse on Medicare. It involved a Republican-led effort at the Senate Finance Committee to make what some have labeled unkind cuts to trim a troubled program. In the end, the cuts were approved. In our report tonight from NBC's Cassandra Clayton on Capitol Hill.
The committee vote came shortly after midnight, down party lines. All 9 Democrats against the plan, all 11 Republicans for it.
I believe this legislation will strengthen and preserve the Medicaid and Medicare. It will help balance the budget.
The Republican plan cuts Medicare, the government's medical insurance for the elderly, by $270 billion over the next 7 years, mostly by limiting future payments to doctors and hospitals. Medicaid, which serves the poor and disabled, will be cut by $182 billion and will be administered by the states. In his radio address broadcast today, President Clinton called the plan outrageous.
We do need to slow the rate of medical inflation in the Medicaid program. But these cuts are way, way too much. They are far, far more than the health care system can handle.
This morning's vote capped 3 days of deliberations and partisan posturing. Yesterday, House Republicans dragged in an ostrich and accused Democrats of ignoring the Medicare crisis. Democrats rolled out a Trojan horse, symbolic, they say, of Republican attempts to hide the pain of their plan from the public as they attempt to balance the budget and provide tax cuts.
They slash Medicare, they slash Medicaid, they slash education, they slash research, all in an effort to put together a pool of money to provide a $245 billion set of new tax preferences, new tax loopholes for the wealthiest among us.
If we do nothing, forget about taxes, this system will go bankrupt. We have an obligation to preserve Medicare. We have an obligation to balance the budget.
Congress will be in recess next week, giving members time to hear what their constituents think about the proposed cuts. Cassandra Clayton, NBC News at the Capitol.
The budget battle over Medicare will be the topic tomorrow on NBC's Meet the Press. Republicans and Democrats from both houses of Congress, including House Majority Leader Dick Armey and Senate Minority Leader Tom Daschle, will be Tim Russert's guests. Another battle brewing in Congress is threatening to take away something most workers have come to expect: retirement pensions, the income people count on for old age. I'll report tonight from NBC's chief financial correspondent, Mike Jensen.
Earl Sloan Whitehead is 78 and living in what may be the golden age of pensions. His son, Sloan Jr., is 49. His retirement will be much tougher than his father's. And his son, Sloan III, who's 24, may never even see a pension.
It's a crisis.
Kate Blackwell wrote a book about it.
The traditional system is breaking down.
She and other experts say private pensions from companies and unions are disappearing at a time when Social Security pensions also are threatened. Sloan Sr. and his generation are the lucky ones. He's been retired for 15 years. With a private pension and Social Security, he and his wife Peg get almost $22,000 a year.
I think in some ways the things are more difficult for my son's generation than it was for my generation.
His son, Sloan Jr., agrees. He's a college administrator and teaches night courses for extra money.
Pizza's ready.
His wife, Nancy, is a math tutor.
Good.
With 2 children to put through college, they have no savings, and they don't expect to get much in the way of pensions, private or Social Security.
I don't see myself retiring at 65 as much as I'd like to. I think it will involve work at a hardware store or a bookstore or pumping gas.
I'm disappointed that having contributed all this time, that we won't be able to have the benefit of that when we retire.
Their son, Sloan III, may be the worst off of all. He's a bachelor in the export business, learning martial arts. He's convinced there won't be any pensions by the time he retires, that he'll have to save for it on his own. But how?
I live paycheck to paycheck at this point, and understand the sooner you start saving, the better off you are in the long run, but it's simply not possible to start at this point.
It's a huge problem. Experts say Social Security is certain to both raise the retirement age and reduce benefits. And companies are replacing pensions with plans that require people to put in their own money, if they have it. The result? Retirement looks less and less like a time to smell the roses and more like a battle for survival. Mike Jensen, NBC News, New York.
Funeral services were held in Boston today for a prosecutor who police believe might have been a victim of the very gangs he prosecuted. Over 1,000 people paid their respects to Paul McLaughlin, who was assigned to the state's anti-gang task force and was found shot to death on Monday at a commuter train station. They're still looking for the gunman. When NBC Nightly News continues, letting crime victims know where to find their attackers.
Starting at about $1 a day, you can get the best television has to offer with Prime Star. Movies, sports, and family programming, all with digital picture and sound. Best of all, Prime Star is a service, so there's no equipment to buy. And it all starts at about $1 a day. To find out more, call 1-800-PRIME-STAR.
Well, we're here with Wanda and Babs, who feel that their zipper bag is fine and will not switch to Gladlock zipper bags.
That's right. Ditto.
Now, Babbo, let's say you hold some of your famous chicken gravy upside down over Wanda's head, sealed in either your bag or the Gladlock bag with the yellow and blue make green seal, so you know the bag is closed. Your bag doesn't have a green seal.
Well, I say let's go for it with our bag. Why switch? 'Cause it's my head. We'll switch to Gladlock.
Good call, Wanda. When it really counts, get Gladlock.
If heartburn makes you sit up when you'd rather lie down, it may not be just heartburn. It may be something different. Doctors call it acid reflux, and you need something different. You need regular Gaviscon. Only Gaviscon forms a protective barrier that helps keep stomach acid down, where it belongs. Mylanta can't. Regular Maalox can't. Gaviscon is the only medicine you can buy without a prescription that can. So, to help stop reflux pain from keeping you up, when it's time to lie down, get Gaviscon. It's different from here all the way to here.
Dateline Friday. Telemarketers. They're constantly calling you trying to sell something. Now you can get rid of them and you might make money doing it. Find out how. Dateline Friday at a special time.
In focus this evening, keeping track of troublemakers. One Kentucky county uses computers to let crime victims know when the people they fear are being released or relocated. The project has been so successful, the governor there plans to make it statewide. NBC's Jim Cummins has our report.
Every day at state prisons and county jails across the country, convicted felons are released, and the victims of their crimes don't know about it. Pat and John Byron believe their daughter Mary would be alive today if they had been notified that Donovan Harris was out on bond. He had been charged with kidnapping and raping Mary.
They told us that if he was released, that we'd be notified and we could provide protection for Mary.
But they weren't. And the police say Donovan ambushed Mary Byron in her car as she was leaving work. She was killed instantly after being shot 6 times in the head at close range. It was her 21st birthday.
We were assured that he was incarcerated and we were safe. And we took and believed in the system, but the system didn't work.
And now the system has been changed in Jefferson County, Kentucky, because of the Mary Byron case.
Welcome to Victim Information and Notification Every Day, the VINE system.
The VINE system is an automated telephone and computer program that notifies victims of the criminal's every move through the criminal justice system.
Please enter the inmate ID number followed by a pound sign.
Crime victims sign up for the program at no charge, and the VINE system automatically dials their telephone to tell them when the criminal has been released. The system calls repeatedly until crime victims acknowledge they got the message.
This inmate is currently in custody at Home through the Home Incarceration Program.
Douglas Cobb heads the company that came up with this idea.
What we are offering here is a really critical service. It's public safety. It's safety for women who are very afraid.
Jane, for instance, she was beaten and abused by her ex-husband, who was serving time for assault. She signed up for the VINE system.
Anytime he moves, I want to be aware. Anything that goes on, if he gets released to go to any type of counseling or anything, I want to be made aware of what's going on.
Recently, she was notified by telephone in the middle of the night that her husband had been moved.
It was less than an hour of his transfer that they contacted me, let me know that he had been relocated to a different facility.
At least 26 states have passed laws requiring that victims be notified of the whereabouts of the criminal in their case. The problem is they haven't provided much funding for those notification programs. But the VINE system in Jefferson County is relatively inexpensive.
We put this program together in this county with $50,000, and we'll maintain it year after year with about the same amount of money.
Since the VINE system began operating in Kentucky last January, the authorities in 15 other states have inquired about it and are considering similar programs. Pat and John Byron joined the VINE system so they can keep track of Donovan Harris, who was convicted of murdering their daughter. Harris won't be eligible for parole for 10 years. Jim Cummins, NBC News, Louisville, Kentucky.
And we'll be back with more news in a moment.
Over the last 150 years, all kinds of companies that said they'd be there when you needed them didn't stand up to their promises. That's life. Our policy of thoughtful, prudent investing has kept us, well, a pillar of strength for the last 150 years. That's New York Life, the company you keep.
Were things any easier for him? Was providing for a family simpler back then? Now there's so much information, decisions are tougher. Strange. I grew up not wanting to walk in his footsteps. Now I only wish I could.
Things are more complex. Ask a Merrill Lynch financial consultant who can help with a plan and more ways to make the plan work than anyone else. The difference is planning. The difference is Merrill Lynch.
Did you call for phone service?
Is technology amazing? At GTE, we think it should make your life easier, like Express Dial Tone, which allowed Kim Swanson to order new phone service
Get our phone hooked up.
by plugging in her phone,
Cool number, thanks.
which she finds pretty amazing.
What are you going to do for dinner?
You could have some wieners.
Why? Because she won't have to eat something really scary for dinner tonight. Amazing.
untouched. Made from 100% Colombian beans, the richest coffee in the world. Naturally decaffeinated. You there. Taste this decaffeinated and you will taste the spirit of coffee.
The people who named tropical storms and hurricanes in the Atlantic haven't reached the letter O since they started naming them back in 1950, and Tropical Storm Opal is the newest and the second busiest storm season ever recorded. Opal is presently swirling out of the Yucatan Peninsula and into the Gulf, where it's expected to strengthen and then head toward the Louisiana coast, where it could reach hurricane strength on Tuesday. Overseas now, the chief U.S. negotiator in Bosnia warned today, quote, "Don't expect a nationwide ceasefire anytime soon. Negotiations are continuing. Problem is, so is the fighting." NBC's Jim Maceda is in Sarajevo tonight.
U.S. peace envoy Richard Holbrooke continued his diplomatic offensive, but after 8 hours of talks with Bosnian President Alija Izetbegovic, he could neither narrow differences between the warring sides on the shape of the future map, nor remove the stumbling blocks in the way of a nationwide ceasefire.
The fundamental issues of this war, Sarajevo, Gorazda, the political structure, all the fundamental issues remain unresolved, and the two sides are very far apart.
It is combined UN and NATO might, not diplomacy, which has given Sarajevo a chance to rebuild. Since the airstrikes, a de facto ceasefire here has allowed schools to reopen. Gas lines are being laid, some trams are running, and Sarajevans are beginning to consider a future without shells and snipers. But the siege, while eased, has not been lifted. 2 roads out of Sarajevo were supposed to be open to civilians today, a key condition for suspending the airstrikes. But despite all of Holbrooke's diplomatic arm twisting, this vital link to the outside world remains closed to civilians. The Bosnian government refuses to test it since it runs through Serb-controlled territory, and the UN is balking as well, claiming the road is mined. Peace negotiations mean little elsewhere in Bosnia, where the war continued on several fronts. Bosnian government forces launched a fresh offensive in western Bosnia, pushing the front line 2 miles further into Serb territory. While in northwest Bosnia, Serb forces are mounting a counterattack, retaking ground lost to the government in recent fighting. And they are getting help from their Serb brothers across the border in Serbia. Paramilitary troops led by a fearsome Serbian fighter nicknamed Arkan, who is blamed for some of the war's worst atrocities, but worshipped by these fighters who vowed to liberate Serb land. With all sides, Muslim, Croat, and Serb, vowing to fight on, even Holbrooke admits that implementing a peace plan will be harder than agreeing to one.
It's very slow, it's very tough, it was an exhausting process from the beginning, and that we're very daunted by the issues that lie ahead.
And as Sarajevans spruce up a cemetery where over 10,000 victims are buried, they know that if diplomacy fails once again, those numbers will grow. Jim Maceda, NBC News, Sarajevo.
To the Middle East now, and conflicting signals today about the state of peace between Israel and the PLO. On Thursday, the parties signed a new agreement at the White House. Well, today, the Israeli army says it's keeping its borders with Palestinian-controlled areas in the West Bank and the Gaza Strip closed until Thursday. The reason is caution. This coming Wednesday is the holiest day on the Jewish calendar, and there are concerns that Muslim extremists opposed to peace might attempt suicide attacks. Law and Order and Showbiz combined to produce our moment of the week this week. It was Thursday in Tucson, Arizona, when police used a mechanical dinosaur originally built to compete in demolition derbies to help destroy a vacant house frequented by crack users. Children from 7 different schools showed up to watch Transaurus, a handmade 30-foot-tall robot mounted on an armored personnel carrier, as he took a bite out of crime. When NBC Nightly News continues in a moment, at the top of her game but unable to enjoy the view from the top.
Thank you.
At Cigna, we care about people who have babies. We care about people who have cancer. We care about companies that make steel and about companies that make bread. We care about people whose lives have been shattered and the people who help pick up the pieces. We care about life and about all that makes life great or possible or just better. At Cigna, we care because it is our business to care, and because the more we care, the better our business does. But we also care because, well, because we have babies too. Cigna, a business of caring.
We do less all day than most people do before sunrise. No, this job isn't for everyone, but if you've got what it takes, maybe you can be one of us. The few, the patient, the lonely, Maytag, the dependability people.
Sunday on Today, now the fate of O.J. Simpson rests in the hands of a jury. A look back at final arguments and ahead to deliberations. Join us Sunday and see what a difference today makes.
We have an extraordinary story tonight of a horsewoman who in many ways towers over her peers. In a sport where the competition is already tough, she fights on two fronts and wins. NBC's Rahima Ellis tonight on the Pride of Massachusetts.
Canter elope, please. Canter elope.
At first glance, 33-year-old Gail Massey of Massachusetts seems like all the other riders. But there is a difference. They can see where they're going. Gail is blind. Diabetes took her sight at 23.
You know, you just want people to know that you want the same things out of life. And just because something happens to you doesn't mean that changes.
She competes against sighted riders and is held to the same standards. With an earphone and walkie-talkies, her coach guides her through the events.
You're passing C. The horse coming up beside you. Shorten your inside rein. There you go. Better.
During a barrel race, sound is critical. She follows the sound.
Go, 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 go. The number one thing anyone will tell you is horseback riding is inherently dangerous. And so is getting into your car and a lot of other things we do every day.
I kind of thought it was a challenge, but then as she told me that she worked in Boston and walked the streets of Boston every day, I figured anybody who was brave enough to do that certainly could ride.
Gail grooms her horse Kiowa herself.
Give me the...
But needs a little help putting on the bridle.
Where's your mouth? Good girl.
Okay, go in.
Gail works as a computer programmer at the Massachusetts Institute of Technology, guided by synthesized sound and her seeing eye dog, Jingo. But her passion is riding. She's been doing it competitively for 2 years. As a blind woman, how difficult is it for you to control a horse?
I don't think, only directionally is it more difficult. As far as riding the horse and my ability to steer him, a lot of that's done with your body.
This day, she adds another ribbon to her collection. But ribbons aren't the only reason she competes.
Maybe it'll make other people think about things that they should try to do that they might not think about doing, or they've been told they can't do.
Rahima Ellis, NBC News, Orange, Massachusetts.
And that is Nightly News for this Saturday. Sarah James will be here tomorrow night. I'm Brian Williams in Washington. Good night.